Probably, yeah. Probably be the best thing.
Hey, Coach.
Oh, fellas.
John, how's it feel to have another state champion in the family?
You know, I kind of teared up after he won. I had to go outside. It's pretty exciting, you know. I don't think you ever get used to that, you know, especially I'm proud of Sam, you know. Think about it. He's quietly sat behind Kel Hughes last year and missed his freshman year to compete. Um, and when he got his opportunity, you know, he capitalized on it, you know, and for that reason, you know, you get a chance to see him win the biggest tournament he's ever won. It's exciting, and really proud of him. Yeah, and great job with the Stillwater News Press.
Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah. Well, and several of those guys also are going to be joining you next year.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm kind of a lucky dad. You know, I've had Joseph on a state championship team and Sam on a state championship team. So, I don't know. It seems like I'm pretty lucky, I guess.
Well, I remember you telling me a few years back the fact that you were never on a team that won a championship.
Oh, yeah, and we had really good teams. But at that time, Midwest City was ranked 1, 2, or 3 in the nation. They were. I mean, we were getting beat by our neighboring city, and you know, it wasn't because we wasn't good, because they were really good. And at that time, boy, a lot of wrestlers came out of those two schools and flooded the Division I schools all over the nation. Pretty exciting time.
Yeah.
I thought we saw possibly I got to go watch the 6A and 3A only because Sam was wrestling, right? Other than if Sam wasn't wrestling, I couldn't watch it because of the NCAA rules on recruiting.
Okay.
But what I saw maybe the best finals on both sides, 3A and 6, that I've seen in 15 years. I mean, it was good, really good. We got some guys that can wrestle in this state right now, you know, and that's exciting to watch.
Yeah. Looking ahead this weekend, sounds like you've narrowed down who's going to be wrestling at 141 for the Big 12s.
Yeah, Caden G Feller. You know, it's just the case that you know, every year, you know, you just try to certify everybody at the lowest possible weight, and it's the smartest thing to do. You know, Daton Fix certified at the lowest possible weight, and Caden G Feller, you know, 141. Hey, you probably never go down there, but you know, we never know what happens, you know, and for that reason, you know, you don't have to, you know, in September, you don't have to be that close to the weight, you know, and when you're certifying, you know, you got that time that allows you to reduce weight through the year. But you know, yeah, he's done a nice job over the last 3 weeks, um, you know, managing his weight and getting it down. So we'll see him. I don't know what to expect. You know, it's a little different feel for him his first time down. But I tell you, if he has his mojo with him, he could be really dangerous. So we know that because we've seen him wrestle. So hopefully he hasn't missed too much of the season and he can be ready. So we'll find out.
With the restrictions on how much you can cut each week and whatnot, at what point did you guys make that decision to shift him from wrestling at 57 to start cutting down?
Well, we kind of, you know, when we lost Cade, and we know we lost Cade, we were really concerned about having a backup at 41. You know, if something happens to Dusty. So I would say it started, or you know, somewhere around um, the end of January. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
He weighed in, I think, at Air Force.
Yeah.
Was his
Yeah, that
last-
was his last match. Yeah.
Yeah, at Air Force, and he weighed in at about 152. And if it was any later in February, he wouldn't have been able to wrestle. But it allowed him to be able to sit down before the Big 12.
Hey, Coach. So at 141 this season, it's a weight at the beginning of the season that looks so strong. Unfortunately, a lot of bad luck. How disappointing is that to have not only your starter but your backup out for the season?
It's not good. You wonder if you're doing something wrong. I mean, my goodness, you just think, am I doing something wrong? I am in my 30th year. It's a different season, and we've never had this type of season where you got 6 days that you're not competing, 1 day that you are competing. So that makes it different, but I don't think it's anything. I just think that we had, I think the important thing is I had a really tough time with seeing Cade get hurt again, and I'll be honest with you, he's the one that really helped us all move past it, and my gut was just turning, and a kid that's grown up here in town, and you've been around him since he was in his diapers. His goals, his ambitions when he was young, and he was very driven, and it was fun to be around him, fun to watch him train, fun to watch him, chase his dream. And you have a couple of these years that he had, it's just gut wrenching. And I think he really said a few things that kind of definitely helped me, move on and go, okay, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay with this. It's not going to be a hangover for him for many years to come. And it's just good to see him be able to say, hey, wrestling was good to me, and I'm moving forward, and things happen, and you got to get back up, and just the message that we all needed to hear.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Coach, on the NCAA rules this year, my understanding is it's a 4-match rule. How does that work with Caden? And can he get if he wrestles the 4 matches of the Big 12s, is he still eligible to qualify and get the automatic bid and all that stuff?
Yeah, so all those automatic bids, it's for the weight class. So, my understanding is, I think we have 4 or 5 at 41. Is it 4? Yeah. So we have 4 at 41. So if Caden finishes in the top 4, he goes. If he doesn't, I don't see how he would go. Just because he hadn't been ranked at that weight class all year. And but so he's going to have to finish in the top 4 in order to go to the NCAA championships.
With Austin Hares, he's kind of with the preseason, the allocations they have at heavyweight, he's seated he should be seated in the spot that would, if he wrestles to a seed, he gets his first bid to an NCAA tournament. How do you kind of see him as far as making that progression and making that kind of bigger step for him to get his first time to go to the tournament?
Well, it's big for him. You're right. I mean, he didn't make it last year. If we went to the NCAA championships, he didn't make it. Listen, I told our guys, it's real simple, that these positions that we have and the slots that we've been granted for each weight, you better fall in one of those slots. Because what I'm seeing, I don't know how they're going to, I don't know how what are they called? At large bids. I don't know. That at large thing is going to be a nightmare, and there's going to be some good people left at home, and there's going to be some guys that are ranked 17, maybe 20 in the country that are going to be left at home. That EIWA, tournament, there was 21 wrestlers that were not ranked in the top 32 that qualified in one of those spots. 21. I mean, oh my goodness. So how many of them didn't make it, so I've made it real clear, guys, we got to have our best tournament, and you need to make sure that you're finishing in one of those spots that will give you a ticket to the national tournament, and not count on any at-large bids.
You've been
Thanks,
saying that you wanted to wait till the postseason to let Wyatt, finally just let it rip. I mean, do you feel he's health-wise and mentality-wise ready to let it go now?
Well, I mean, he's listen, we've got to see him in enough matches now that we all know that it's not all there right now, and it's probably going to be the same a little bit. But the difference is you got to go for it. You got to have a different attitude. You got to have a different mindset, and not everyone in the country. Not everyone in the country is dealing with what you're dealing with. But I will say this, that he can do this. He can do this. It's hard, but he's a tough kid. And in the end, he needs to have a great tournament. That weight class is pretty deep. When you look at the Big 12, they awarded 4 spots. Three spots. Do I think if somebody takes 4th and 5th at that weight in our conference, that they'll go? Yeah, probably, but not 6, 7, and 8. And I think we got 8 guys in the top 32 at that weight. Definitely 7. So got to have a good tournament, and you got to wrestle better than you've wrestled.
How much is it the knee or versus mental, just getting over the mental aspect, or conditioning? Because he was sidelined for so long. What or a combination of the 3?
Well, there's certain things you can't do when you're injured. Certain parts of your body you're not injured, and I mean it's not science. I mean it's pretty simple to see where what the injury is. He's got his knee taped up and wrapped up, and so you just got to wrestle smarter, and you got to stay intense, and you can't give up anything, when you're limited to some of the things that you can do. So for Wyatt, it's just a matter of him wrestling better than he's wrestled all year long, and if it doesn't materialize, it's not because he's not tough, so it's not because he doesn't, he's falling short. No, it's none of that. Let's just let's not look at the negatives, but look at the opportunity that most, if not, probably 9 out of maybe 19 out of every 20 athletes wouldn't be able to go, period. So sometimes you get a little bit lucky because the makeup of your body, but following season, he will be taking care of his injury.
Speaking of guys trying to battle through injury right now, with Dustin, I know when we talked a week and a half ago, you said you wanted to. It was more of an attitude. You want to see an attitude adjustment from him between then and now. Have you seen that from him?
Yeah, it's just a matter of a lot of weight on. You think about a kid, that didn't have the high school season last year either. We had 3 of those. Our 3 true freshmen did not wrestle in the high school season last year. That doesn't help, and you come back and you're wrestling half a season starting in January. So For Dustin, I think it's a lot of experiences that he hasn't had to go through in this sport, that's just really tough. First, he's young. He's at a pretty good weight. The wrestling is way more intense. You when you wrestled back in January, it was your first match in 18 months. A lot of things go into it, and nothing's really surprised me. Um, you know, Nothing's really surprised me. It's um, just needs to kind of put things together, and on top of maybe a shoulder that is concerning to him a little bit, but I really don't think it's the shoulder as much as people think it is. It's still a little bit of learning to wrestle hard, recognizing people are going to fight back. Um, Going on the road is a lot different than going down and wrestling Comanche. It's a different environment, a different, and he's experiencing some of this. I mean, and the reason I say this is I was a true freshman at one time, and I remember those days. That they were valuable learning lessons that teach you a lot about yourself and what you're not doing. So hopefully we're gaining some of that experience. He's going to be a great wrestler for us one day, if not this year. Um, just We just need to keep him positive right now and working through the whatever is keeping him from maybe performing at a level that he knows he's capable of.
John, on Daton, as little as he's been able to wrestle, other than practice, I suppose, how close is he to the top of his game, and what kind of challenge was that for him over the last year plus to remain his very best when, all he's got is practice to do it?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll just say this, I mean, the challenge is this: he's not hitting anyone that he needs to hit. He needs to get tested. Be nice if he could get tested a little bit, but it's not his fault. It's just it's just where it's at in the Big 12 right now. Some weights are loaded. You're going to be getting tested. Ferrari's going to get tested 3 times, maybe 4. With Daton, I think that the challenge for him over the year was just he's a proud kid, and he takes a lot of pride in his preparation. I think he just wanted his name cleared more than anything, and say, hey, I would never do anything to try to enhance my performance. I think his character was on the line. And just it's just really nice to be at a place where Oklahoma State believed Daton, and said, listen, let's do whatever we have to do within the NCAA rules to clear your name. And so that's a big relief, and I think some of his wrestling, as we watch him, some of that relief is really fed into his wrestling. I mean, he's wrestling and doing some things that he's never done. I'll just say that. He looks really good right now. And he's added to his offense on his feet. And I see a better wrestler right now than I've ever seen with Daton. So I'll just leave it at that.
It seems like, just from watching the highlights, that the atmosphere has been pretty good for you guys at home. What are you hoping for in Tulsa this weekend in terms, it'll be limited, but there'll be fans in there?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a sold out, whatever they allowed. I know they were not too far off that at the beginning of the week. Yeah, it's an event that's going to host the NCAA championships in a few years, and we need to remind people it's going to be an exciting time when that happens. And the Big 12 is going to be real important for us. I think it's probably going to be the most challenging tournament. I see possibly up to 4 teams that could win. Um, for us, I think if we, we do what we're capable of doing, and we get a little bit lucky with some of these guys. When I say lucky, that it doesn't affect their injury that they have or those type of things. Uh, I think that we can make a real run at it, but it's going to be a little bit of a different tournament than what we've seen in the past, and it's going to be a challenging tournament. Unfortunately, the the pandemic in a year where Oklahoma, this conference is as tough right now as it's ever been with the teams that are in it. Um, and when you go back on historical data, you really took away from the Big 12. The Big 12 took it on the chin worse than any other conference with doing historical data. And the reason I say that is when you evaluate how many wrestlers that we have ranked, it's way different than it's ever been. This conference is way tougher than it was 4 years ago. So that's exciting. That's how you win national championships. That's how someone in your conference has that shot of winning a title, of winning a trophy at the NCAA tournament. And that's not going to go backwards as we move forward.
John, since you brought up the pandemic, I did want to ask about the effect it's had on the sport. Lost a couple of programs this year, including one that's going to be in Tulsa this weekend. How discouraging was that to you? And how do you feel as secure as you've ever been in terms of the support you're getting at Oklahoma State in light of the past year and how difficult it's been on everyone?
Yeah, when you look at, Division I programs, somebody said 100 of them, 100 different programs dropped. I don't know the exact number. And of course, 3% of that was wrestling. So you feel a little bit fortunate. It looks like, hey, this could have got a lot more nastier than what it did, I'll just say, I got to be careful what I say, because to me, people that make decisions during this time, negative decisions, are cowards. You don't make, it's easy to make decisions that we're going to, stop competing in a certain sport. That's the easy answer. Find good answers. Find reasons to keep everything. So I don't know. It's. I think we'll come out of this in good shape. I think that it probably put the brakes on in a lot of ways with women's wrestling for just a moment. Not long. I'll say that I think that as we come out of this, I think that women's wrestling has a real opportunity of growth. But we need to stay focused on our programs in Division I, and we need to make good decisions, and we need to continue to recognize that no one's out of the woods, including wrestling. I mean, there's going to be deficits going forward that need to get solved, and hopefully we can solve those deficits by not dropping programs. Just seems really weak decisions.
Have you felt the impact at all?
Absolutely.
At your program, I guess,
Yeah, I look at my check every month.
Right.
It's a big difference.
Right.
And it's okay. What
Right.
Coach Holder has done, it's okay. It takes some leadership. You got to make some decisions, and not everybody's going to agree with it. And in the end, Oklahoma State appears to be in good shape as we go forward, and you're not doing that without making hard decisions and taking the lead on what needs to happen. In my budget, I'll probably end up spending, my operating budget, I'll probably end up spending 35 to 40% of it, and so that's a good thing, and if all of our sports, which they are doing the same, then we're going to be in a lot better place when this thing is over.
Coach, you mentioned women's wrestling, and yeah, I think most people that follow women's wrestling know it's growing. Even during the pandemic, it's seen strides. Do you see? I know like this is really not the time because it's like you're talking about the budgets are getting cut, everything else, but comes back out of it, life gets back to normal. Do you see years down the road Oklahoma State having a women's program?
Oklahoma State is in talks, right? And we're talking about it right now. So, um, I'm not the person to probably be saying anything other than we've had talks about it. It's definitely on the radar, and we'll work through the process of seeing if it's something that Oklahoma State athletic department wants to add. So um, I'll just say, that we definitely have visited about it several times.
Thanks, Coach.
Mhm.
Hey, Coach, going back to 141, Caden G Feller, in 2019, he was a Big 12 champion. Since then, I mean, what have you noticed about Caden in the room?
Well, he hadn't been in the room a whole lot. He's had injury after injuries, injuries that has kind of set him back a little bit. This last one he had was more of an infection that took a little bit of time. Um, but through it all, he's constantly stayed focused on making a return. And how it happened, how it materialized this year is a little bit unusual. But you know, you just know that you just know when you haven't been in the fight consistently. There's some drawbacks to that. But I will tell you this: he's a tough kid, man. He's a tough kid, and if anybody can surprise us, it would be him. So if he can handle the weight and over the 2 days, um, he'll be a fighter for you. He'll be a fighter for us.
Thanks.
You look at Travis Whitlake. He obviously hasn't really been going up against anyone ranked or anything up to now. And you look at the brackets. He's the only guy that's actually ranked. I know at least in Intermat in the top 20 at his weight class in the Big 12. Is that detrimental to you to him? Do you think that he needs that better competition before NCAA's? Obviously, he can't get it, but what's the concern of him really not having faced that tough competition right now?
This is a different year. I'm not sure that too many of them, outside of maybe a couple guys in the Big Ten, has been able to test themselves a whole lot this year. And so I think we go in pretty even. Even though you're not getting tested, he's wrestling Zach Esposito, someone like that. You're being tested in the room. Zach's not laying down for you. He's a pretty tough guy. So sometimes you're getting tested in the room, but maybe not necessarily in every match. So is it a concern of mine? No, because there was nothing. Those are things that you can't control, and you just control what you can. So what do? You need to go out. You need to score 20, 25 points when you can, and shape your mind around that. That's hard. That's as hard as beating a good wrestler 4-2. So and we've asked a lot out of him, and from a standpoint of picking up major decisions, pressing yourself a lot harder than what you're pressing. We need to pick up a minimum of major decision and really stretch ourselves to score those tech falls, and like I said, that's not easy. That can be just as hard as winning 4-2. So we did what we could do with uh, the scenario that he had, and he's responded to it.
Thanks, John.
Hmm. Okay. All right, fellas. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
All right, Daton Fix is on the call. Y'all can go ahead and ask him questions.
Dayton, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I was just going to ask, I asked Coach about Caden, but since his championship in 2019 as a teammate, how have you seen Caden, you kind of, I guess, battle back from those injuries and earn by almost by default this spot here at the Big 12s?
Yeah. I mean, he's been through a lot of injuries the past couple of years, but he was given an opportunity to, cut down a weight class and given a chance to wrestle at the Big 12 tournament. And I mean, he could have easily said, that's a lot of weight. I don't think I can make it. But, he just really just got right to work. And even whenever he wasn't able to be on the mat for, a couple of weeks, he's been running and getting his weight down, and his weight's in a pretty good spot right now. So I don't think making weight this weekend is going to be a problem for him. So just as long as he can, recover, and I think he'll be able to compete.
Thanks.
Daton, when we talked to John last after the Bedlam duel, he mentioned the fact that that year off for you, you were able to develop skills that you didn't have before, and that's what's led to you doubling up your falls from 2 years ago. I mean, what are some of those skills that he's referencing that you feel that you have developed during that time away?
I think just I was getting in the room and just trying new things, and just anytime you start putting yourself in different positions, you're gonna learn new stuff. So, I wrestled with a bunch of different people over that year that I set out. So just wrestling different people and getting different feels, I feel like I developed some skills that I didn't have before.
And obviously, I mean, do you feel that is what's responsible for the increase in falls, or is it just pent up aggression from the past year?
Well, going through high school and stuff, I never really tried to pin people. I wanted to put a lot of points on the board, and that's really what my style I wanted it to be. I wanted to score a bunch of points, and I still want to score points, but to win team titles, we have to have guys that are going to go get falls, and that's something that I feel like I can do. I have the ability to go pin people, and that's something that I just decided that I wanted to work towards more during my matches.
Do you feel like maybe that was a new mental approach? Because when you think back to some of the greats recently at Oklahoma State, it was that aspect. Alex Deering or Jordan Oliver. What made them so great was also the fact that they went out there and got falls, not just tech falls and stuff like that on their way to winning championships.
Yeah, absolutely. And also my younger brother, he said that I couldn't pin people, so I wanted to prove him wrong a little bit.
Okay. So you're giving him all the credit here. You're
little
doing
bit.
better because your brother challenged you.
Yeah, a little bit of the credit.
All right. Thanks.
Dayton, John's kind of talked about how you're the leader of the program right now. You got 3 freshmen on the roster, 3 true freshmen starting on the roster this weekend. What do you feel is kind of your role in bringing the younger guys like that along, and what do you do in the room to kind of move that forward?
I think my role is just to show them that how they need to be wrestling. I feel like my performance needs to kind of dictate how they should, approach their matches. And, I've been trying to do that in the room as well. This past couple of weeks, I've tried to come into the room with a different, attitude. It's the postseason now, and there's no really, it's not time for games. Whenever practice starts, it's time to get serious. And we've been, I mean, we've had the past couple weeks, I feel like we've had some of the best practices we've had all year.
Thanks, Aiden.
Daton, on I would assume this is probably the longest break you had in competition, maybe in your life or whatever. So, thinking back to the start of that and everything, what kind of nerves came along with that, if any? Were you sure of exactly what you would be able to produce? And now, in hindsight, after a couple of them, where do you feel you are in terms of top of your game?
I feel like I've the way I've been wrestling in the room, the way I've been, drilling and sparring and stuff, I feel like I'm wrestling as best as I've wrestled in, a long time. Probably the best I've ever wrestled in my career right now. So I just have a different love for the sport after I've been off for so long. You just kind of forget about, how much it means to be able to go out there and compete. And when you have that taken away from you, it's, something that you don't want to lose again. So it's, it's kind of helped me, I think, jump levels in my wrestling.
And how hard was that? I mean, I know this is kind of your life and you work hard at this thing no matter what, but to maintain that level of sharpness when you're going more than a year between competitions, how did you accomplish that?
I never, never really stopped training, even though I was on a suspension and, COVID was going on, I was finding guys to wrestle with. And, I just really trained all the way through. And training and competing, it's not the same, but, you know, it, you can still stay sharp with, training.
And so how old is your brother? What's his name? And did you have anything to offer him once you racked up a couple of these falls? Did you have anything to say to him?
His name's Daton Fix, and he's in the 6th grade. And so he's at the age where he's starting to, get a little cocky and thinks that he can kind of roll around with me. But so he was talking to my girlfriend, and I think I got, the first fall of the tournament at the challenge tournament, and he was like, Daton can't pin people. He always just tries to tech everybody. So then a couple, I end up pinning a couple more people, and then he was like, well, what's going on? Why are you pinning everybody? And then I was like, well, Taylor, my girlfriend, told me that you said I can't pin people, so I wanted to kind of prove to him that I can if I really wanted to.
Thanks.
Daton, John just kind of talked about women's wrestling being talked about possibly for Oklahoma State. For someone who grew up in this state, idolizing Oklahoma State wrestling, and obviously that was you're ultimately a big goal of yours as you're growing up here in Oklahoma. How significant do you feel that would be for girls wrestling in Oklahoma? It just had its first state official state tournament over the weekend. One of the first programs over there in Tulsa, over in Broken Arrow. But if they had that goal, hey, I can wrestle at Oklahoma State as a female wrestler, how significant do you think that would be for the state at the high school level and down if that were to happen?
I think that'd be huge for, the sport of women's wrestling. If there's more, Division I wrestling, if or the majority of the Division I schools, started a Division I wrestling program, just because, like you said, it will give them something to, work towards, and it'll just help them, set goals and reach goals, and just in doing that, it'll, help them, progress, and it'll progress the sport of wrestling. There's this little girl that just started her first year of wrestling from my hometown in Sand Springs, and I think her name's Bailey Copeland, and she won 2 state state titles in her first year. And, if, Oklahoma State ended up getting the program and she had the opportunity to grow up and, have a goal of, I want to go to Oklahoma State and, represent them, I think that'd be awesome for her.
Thanks, Daton.
Hey, Dayton, one last quick one about Caden. Have you been on the mat with him at all? You guys sparred at all together?
I've drilled him a couple times.
How's he looking?
He's felt good. With his infection, for a while he had trouble hitting his knee, but I think he's kind of gotten past that. So he's been on the mat, probably for a week and a half now. And whenever I drilled with him, he felt like Caden. He felt like G, and I think that's good. I'm really excited for him. Just have the opportunity.
Thanks.
Do you have any more questions for Daton? All right, thanks, Daton.
Thanks,
Yep,
Daton.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Reed.
For
Reed.
for the Big 12 tournament, I think it's going to be hard for us to get like I know in the past Sean was telling me that they've done media availability after every session. This year it's going to be hard for us to do that just because of the limited. We don't have access to the floor there. So what we're going to do is try to get Zooms at the end of each day, if that's fine with y'all.
Okay.
All right, and I'll make sure to keep you informed through the listserv and stuff like that too. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Reed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Reed.
Thanks.